We have sound. Okay, what's up? Let me just check everything. We are pretty good. This is becoming my setup permanently for now. The Ursa is moving soon. But I'm liking how the Ursa is for live streaming. But actually, I managed to set up I don't know if you can see it, but right there, yeah, right there, there's a Blackmagic Cinema Camera MFT, and I actually managed to set it up permanently using a Ultra Studio Express, which I use for my screening and all that. And then I managed to get synced audio through the Electrosonics labs, which was pretty awesome. So I can actually do live streams from there as well. And that's permanently, but that's just because I record stuff. Like with the moment I have some idea of something, I kind of like to just record it and then it's done. But let me see, are we published? Maybe I'm just sitting here and nobody's here. Who knows? Usually I double check, but now I didn't, so I just gotta double check. I was actually out riding my bike just like moments ago, so I'm like, oh, beat. Okay, it's not published. Hopefully all you that missed this live can watch the replay. Okay, live. So this week I'm gonna talk a little bit about the new film as well, because next week I think it is, I'm going to Canada next week. We're gonna be up in Yukon, but I'm also gonna be in Toronto, so anybody that wants to maybe do a meetup or something, I don't know, beer, whatever, coffee, maybe we can synchronize things while I'm in Toronto. But I'm not in Toronto until, I need to check my schedule, but the week after I think. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome to get the project going, because it's been going, but it's been going really slow. And luckily we got a grant, so we can do this in a more proper way, which is gonna be awesome. And I'm gonna save some announcements for later, but the film is gonna have some collaboration included, which is gonna be pretty awesome, because I see this as a model for filmmaking, to collaborate with other YouTubers. And if you're starting with film today, I think that you really should look at YouTube as a platform for getting your work out there. Just like Vimeo has been for a while for like commercial stuff and all that, YouTube is becoming that, but it's becoming also much more natural way of collaborating, because it's usual that like vloggers, they feature in each other's videos. But what I want to do is collaborate within projects. So when I cast somebody, or when not cast maybe, but when we set up a team, when we look at who we're going to collaborate with, if they have a YouTube channel that is a collaboration or possible collaboration, that has value. It really does. And we look at it as a platform to kind of emphasize what we're doing and to get everything out there easily or easier. And like if you can find the right partners, like other YouTubers that are trying to do the same thing and are like, you kind of match each other in a good way and complement each other, then I think that you have something special. And I'm not gonna release who we're gonna collaborate with right now, but soon, wait for it. But that's just like the starting point of it. I see this as like, this is how we want to work. We want to collaborate with some kind of leverage. Then that is a reason for us wanting to collaborate. still have to make the right type of stuff that actually fits into what we're doing, but it is a plus, and it is a way to kind of know that, okay, so we both are serious about this and understand this platform. So that's just like side note to everything. But yeah, going to Toronto next or the week after. Let me just get the control room up here so you can see if you're writing anything. And I need to check the community tab as well. Yeah, somebody asked me this funny. We announced, when was it? I didn't see the date here, but when we did like how to make a film and sell it to Netflix, or what did we call it? How I sold my film to Netflix. That's what we called it, obviously. When we did that, we announced that we were gonna make a course. That course has been filmed and everything. It's like, it's shot. It's several hours. I don't know. It's like many hours of stuff. So we haven't edited it yet. So we thought that the first thing that we want to do is to release another course. So even though people have been asking about that course, it's coming, but it's gonna be a 2.0 of the course that we're releasing now, I would say, which is all the stuff that we've done leading up to like now on the YouTube channel. We've curated that into a course that also has like guides, exercises, templates. Like it's a regular film school type of course, but it's done in a more cinematic way. The other course, the one that is about selling your film to Netflix, it's more focused around like only the Netflix part of it, like selling your film. This course is more about like at the beginning to making a doc and how to launch a doc and how. But let me see. I just gotta bring up some news here. So this is something that I think is interesting. I don't do this anymore, but I'm checking f-stoppers today to see what type of stuff is being talked about. So there's one article, improving your chances of success when replying to clients. And this is like a massive thing if you're trying to touch base with anyone, especially through email. Like email sucks, it truly sucks. For us, for instance, when we try to get a hold of people in terms of doc making, like if you want a commissioning editor somewhere to talk to you, the easiest way of doing that is actually to go to festivals. Even if both of you live in Stockholm in Sweden, it really doesn't matter. Like it's much easier if you're in the same festival, because it's easier to book meetings. You can be like 15 minutes, or it can become an hour, or it can become a dinner, or whatever. But that's much easier, and that goes for everything. All the social gatherings, they have such a like unique way of making it natural and synchronizing people into one space, which is to me much more important than what this is talking about, like how to get them to answer an email. Because the thing is, most emails, and I know this from Andre because I don't do it so much, but all the new business stuff where you're trying to land like new clients and all that, it can take tons of emails before they even open it. Because all the creatives or the agency producers, for instance, they get so many emails that, or brands, they get so many emails that they don't even like look at them. So for you to kind of stand out, it means like not only structuring the email in a certain way, not making it too long, being on point, like a clear call to action, clear, like short, very short, and like on point in terms of what you do, what you can offer. Like don't make anything other than like trying to get a meeting or trying to get a reply. That's all you need for the first contact. But like replying in certain times and all those things, I don't believe in that. I believe in more persistency. So the more you kind of are on people, the better, but not too much. So you need to, like every week you need to follow up until they answer. So once a week, send a follow-up email, see if they answer. Like eventually I just would let it go cold, but at least for a couple of weeks you would do that. And then like, okay, so like 3 weeks, you send an email every week, and then no answer. You wait a little bit, you get back again, and yeah, it's a long-term game. It's not a like one email and you're set type of thing. Yeah, and then when you're trying to land clients, first of all, you need to do the research of people. You need to research what you're trying to get out of them, what you have to offer, and what they need of you. Like, what's the unique thing that you can offer that nobody else can? Like for us, for instance, if we go out now and we try to pitch brands, for instance, to do collaborations in the channel or whatever you want to do, like if you want to use our channel and you want to offer something, we've noticed that the best way to offer anything is by just looking at like the last episode that we did with advertising. If you bring up the problem, which is that all traffic is fake, they know this. Like all the brands know this. They're starting production units within their own house and all those things because of it. And like people can be naive and they can think that that's not going to happen. But seriously, agencies are starting their own production companies. All the brands that are, in social media, they know that for them to be able to produce the amount that they need to produce it in-house, most of it. And all that is shifting, like it's switching the whole industry to something that is new and more tailored to what you can do today. But it's interesting because for us, it's always been about like storytelling. And for me, like if I look at it now, I feel like that's exactly where people are going, but it's been going for a really like slow process. But the selling point for us then, we've noticed, is that whole fake statistics, what can you offer that they can't offer type of thing, if you want to go straight to brands. If you want to go to agencies, it's more traditional. Like, we got a rep and then he's pitching us as a documentary type of storyteller. And it's super traditional, but through documentary. But it's super, super traditionally sold, or whatever you could call it. Yeah, but then if you want to pitch a project and get clients that way, like a collaboration thing, then you need a deck, which is like a pitch deck. And for us, we bring like statistic, problem, for instance, the ad thing, define the problem, and you offer the solution. And if you do that through narrative storytelling, then you need to kind of look at like, okay, this is the problem, this is the story that we're going to tell it through, these are the places, locations, and all that it's going to happen in, but do everything brief and really visual. That type of pitch document is super valuable. And then also you need to think about distribution and what type of if it's sharing, or if it's like, okay, it's going to go on these platforms or whatever it is. The more you have put into that, the more you're gonna have like an advantage to other people, I think. Yeah. So but that's just like generally speaking. And then like practical things when you're trying to get clients, for instance, having a budget form and having like a way to talk about money is really important. But don't, like, if they ask about an estimate, just go back and do it. Don't do it on the spot. Like be smart about it. Take your time and send it. But yeah, do it. I think that's like the essence of this article and everything. Okay, so let me just check if we have some new questions. What's your favorite camera? Oh, so hard. Like, it totally depends on what I'm shooting. If I'm shooting, like if I would go out and do action sports stuff, then I would love to have like the X5R that I have. What are you doing here? If I shoot doc or ad work, like I would love to shoot on an Alexa Mini, but can't afford it or can't afford owning it, so it doesn't make sense. So then I have an Ursa, which I think is like fantastic, but I would love if it was more like light sensitive. But other than that, it has a form factor on the Easy Rig that's amazing. But like vlogging, the GH5 is a great camera. And I think just because of the stabilization, it makes it so easy to have it as a pocket type of camera. That's how I use it. Yeah, my favorite cameras. Okay, let's see. Here we have 5 tips for finding the perfect portrait angle, was something that I thought was interesting. Allergy, so screwed up. Yeah, so there's there's a video. Feels like an ad for the A7 III, but yeah, who knows. So this article, it talks about like shooting portraits and like the whole taking it to the next level type of thing. It's based on a video, but I think if I just talk about like finding angles and stuff for portraits, because I used to do that when I took stills, but I want to apply this whole article thought to like documentary work, which I think differs a lot from when you shoot portrait. And this is what I feel is probably the downfall of still photography. Oftentimes it's all about the subject and like lighting that, and you lose all the story that is in a whole scene. For instance, if you look at like anything from, I guess, Roy Anderson, but a lot of people haven't seen that, but like Coen brothers, if you look at how Roger Deakins, for instance, frames stuff, and how much story you have within all the frames and how you frame it, it's so much more about the rest. It's not just about the portrait, because anybody today can shoot a freaking portrait. Like you put a little bit of blurred background and just focus on the person, and like anybody can pretty much see like, okay, that's a good background, that's good light in your face. Everybody is at that stage pretty much. So I think it demands a lot more than just like looking at angles, which I think this pretty much focuses on. But I would say if you want to apply that whole thought to like documentary work, you would really need to look at more what the story is about. So for instance, when we go to Canada now, I know that that whole place is the story. Just as the characters are the story, I know that the place is the story. So there's 2 schools of thought, basically. Either the B-roll school of thought, which I'm not much fond of, where you go there and you have like an idea, you shoot these characters, which is to me this portrait way of thinking. You shoot the characters, you just focus on them, that's all you think about, right? So you follow them in their lives and all that, and then you kind of go back and you try to shoot the environment. You take this like a stock approach to the environment, shoot as much as possible. I don't like that whole like concept of shooting things or separating things, just because I know that when you get into the edit, and I've edited so much stuff that I know that this is the case. Like in my opinion, this is for real the biggest problem that most filmmakers have, is that they can't connect things solid enough in a story. And the reason for that, I think, is mainly because they separate things. They don't see, like, okay, they see a shot or an angle, okay, and then they have a shot list. That's all they see. Problem with that is that when you're shooting a scene for an editor, And when you think like an editor, that's not how you think. You think about it in a scene. You don't care if the image is good or anything. Like, if you're an editor, you know this. If you're not an editor, then you need to learn this. So shooting stuff, like angle for angle, the type of storytelling that usually is, what you learn in film school, that isn't the efficient way of doing doc storytelling. Because documentary is so focused around capturing a whole scene, or like so you follow somebody as they're making dinner and then they have a conversation and all that. And what is it about? You need to know that. Like, what's the agenda for you for filming that? When you know that, you know what to look for. You know what to focus on. You know what perspective to show the audience in that dinner. That's something that when you do fiction, you can actually create that. And that's what you do. And that's why a shot list or a storyboard makes total sense. But when you do a doc, and when you do a fly on the wall aesthetic type of doc, that doesn't make sense because you're just following along, trying to capture things as they happen. So from working as an editor and a cinematographer, I know that there's certain things that you need to change about how you see things, and it's not about capturing an image that's perfect. You can't light an image and think that that's gonna work. You have to first of all think about lighting in the same way as you think about storytelling as in scenes. So if that means that you're capturing this dinner, for instance, with these people, then you need to know what you're focusing on. Is it a relationship between two people? Is it the whole family? Whatever it is those quiet pauses and all those things that you need to capture B-roll of. You can't just spray like, okay, we need one image of all the faces for each character. Does not make sense at all. Listen, I've done that, and yeah, it is ineffective. When you edit, it's super ineffective. It's a really ineffective way of telling a story. When you choose a perspective, that's when you're an amazing cinematographer. When you can choose and select a perspective that you can tell throughout a whole movie, then you've mastered the craft of cinematography. When you just shoot like single shots, then that's not the case. And I think this like portrait thought, like capturing an angle, that's where you can run into problems in the edit because you think like that. But that's just my rant on it all. Anybody have your opinion, but yeah, that's how I think about it. Okay, so let me see. Are you going to buy the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K? Definitely. I think that's the perfect B camera for me. For vlogging, the GH5 is perfect because it's so rugged and it has the flip screen and it has like the tiny MFT lenses that one also has, but it's small. So I can fit it in my pocket with the small, what's it called? 12 to 32, I think, Panasonic lens. That's like, it's like a pancake lens, but then you can just like zoom it out and it goes out and then it collapses. I don't know what you would call that type of lens, like telescoping type of lens. But that lens is super versatile, so I like that with it. But if I would work with like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, it would mainly be because of the workflow in post. It's going to be so much more fluid. It's going to have so much more professional tools at hand, like the metadata and all those things. So that's the main reason, as well as the light sensitivity and the audio. Audio is a big factor, having XLRs. Yeah. So let me just check the community tab again. I saw your video of 2 years ago when you started experimenting with animations. How did that turn out? Like, it turned out pretty good, I think. I wish I would have had like more resources to do it, but they're in the final film, The Pearl of Africa. It's just me. Pretty much, I guess it's a shot. Trying to recall, is it more? I think it's me reenacting Cleo's dad hitting Cleo. So it's like shot from like two perspectives. It's Cleo's dad hitting and it's Cleo being hit. So it's me throwing myself back being hit and it's me slapping myself, that type of thing. And then that's cut together in After Effects, and then like it's keyed out, and then there's animations being made off of that. So it looks pretty good, but I would have loved to have more time doing it, because I had a different vision at first, like that it would be a much bigger part of the film. Now it just like ended up being that scene that is about her dad. That's the only thing that is animated, which I think it works, but I would have liked having more of it so that it was like a more consistent thought. Now it's only her dad that's connected to it, but I had a thought that it was also her like childhood. I think I did a lot of animation experiments there, but then I threw that away and I used stock footage in the end, I think. Yeah, but that was a money question. Sometimes you just like have to just like bite. Like the reason I think was money and time, because we didn't have time because we had the premiere booked. So with time I could have done it because I did it myself, but otherwise it would have been like, yeah, paying somebody to do it. I actually tried to find an animator to do the whole animations in the beginning. I really liked his style and everything, but he was booked, so yeah, probably was too expensive anyway. Okay, Canon 1300D or 700D, which one is better and why? I actually don't know this. I should know, but I don't know. Somebody probably knows in here though. I would say the most expensive one is probably better. Weak answer, but yeah, don't have another one. Okay. I love your documentary Zero Silence. I want to ask you, how did you meet those people, and how could you save the files? 2009, 2011. Nice work again. How could you save the files? I don't understand that. 2009, 2011. Yeah, that I don't understand. I met the people because I used to work with a program in Sweden called like the Young Leaders Visitors Program. It's like Sweden has this, what do you call it? I think it's actually Sweden's advertising agency, but they have advertising agencies as well. But I think that's what they are. But it's basically like an NGO that does like development work. So they get like development grant funding from the state, but they are also like state run. But then they invest in like these type of programs that, for instance, this one that I was part of, where they bring like opinion makers, journalists like Wael, who's in the documentary, to Sweden, and then they come here and they mix with Swedish journalists, and then they do like a program together where they learn, or at that time they learn like social media and that type of stuff. I guess this was probably in 2008 or something. I think Wael started on, was it Facebook in like 2005 or something, when it was a university thing? I think something like that. I think they started in Egypt, outside of the US or something. Yeah, so he was early on there, and all of them came to Sweden, and I was working, documenting this whole thing, doing films for the program, and then like years after that I also did like filmmaking workshops for them, so teaching them how to film with like mobile cameras and that sort of thing. And that whole thing is it's something that I've started working with then, and then I continued doing that. And I got to know a lot of them, and this was like, I guess 3 years before the revolution in Egypt and Tunisia. And then we filmed while we were there doing the program for a couple of years. So we stayed a couple of extra days, and then we shot interviews with some of them there, some of them in Stockholm, and then we eventually got funded from like the Swedish public broadcaster to go during the Arab Spring. We had a lot of material already because we shot for like 2.5 years. So at that time we got funded to go there. We went there and shot during the Arab Spring, I think. Yeah. I got there during the revolution. We shot there for a while. We went back to Sweden, and then we got some more funding, and then we went back and we did like Egypt, Tunisia, and Lebanon. And I think that became the film. Not sure. Yeah, but I knew most of them. It was somebody that I didn't know. Yeah, Lakai, who was like a rapper in Tunisia, I probably didn't know. Otherwise, I think I knew most of them from the program. Do you think all stories are worth telling through video or film, or some stories not worth telling? I ask as a filmmaker who has told some mundane stories in the most interesting way I can. I think that for the most part it comes down to the character, I think. Because not all characters are interesting to watch. That's what I look at most of the time. It's like, so is this somebody that someone would like to spend time with, and like what's the story behind that? Most people, or I'd say all people, have stories, but everybody isn't ready for like the situation of being filmed and telling them. So either it's a process of getting to know the people, and then maybe with time everybody's story can be told. But for the most part, I think that if you have a better character, you get a stronger story. You get a more unique story told just because the character is unique and has like this dynamic within their life and personality. That's something that it's very hard to kind of direct or cut that together. Either you have it or you don't. And you can't teach it, but you can have like some patience with the people, and that they will be comfortable eventually and start to kind of understand the whole process. But it took me, like shooting myself, it probably took me like a year or so before I felt like, okay, now I know what I'm doing, shooting myself. So if you as a documentary filmmaker think that somebody, just because you're there filming with a camera, that anybody can feel natural just like that, like then think about shooting them for a year or something before that actually happens. Because I think that's what I've learned from vlogging and all that, is that like it's so hard to be natural on camera, and once you have it, you really have it. Then it's like the simplest thing, really. You can just press play and do it. But once you're at that stage, then anything is possible. But before that, it's almost impossible to get something interesting. At least that's what I feel now. And when I look at characters, I see like most characters working, like they can work, but is it a fantastic story? That comes down to both like how great is the character and how great is the character's story. And that's why some films are amazing. If they're badly crafted and the story still is amazing and unique and rare and all that, it still can work somehow. But if it's the other way around, if like everything is perfect, I don't know, then it's hard. But yeah, difficult thing to say though, if you don't see it. Like when you see a character working or a story working, then like it's clear, anybody understands it. But probably most people have different tastes in characters as well, so you need to think about the right one for your audience. And also if you have more than one characters, then it's also like how do you mix them? It's also a big thing. I'm creating a web series with 5 episodes over the next year. I'm also shooting the process of making them. It's better to wait. Is it better to wait until it's all done to release them, or release each episode as I finish them? I like the idea of weekly content between behind the scenes and the episode, but I'm also not angling to be a big YouTuber. I just want to make cool stuff and have people see it. Yeah, there's like, for us, an ongoing learning process. We've tried a different way of releasing stuff, and I think that one-off thinking is probably the best. So when we released Confused African, we tried to like, okay, so how can we make them go like side by side? So the behind the scenes thing and then the documentary thing. If you have a big hype, then maybe it can be a good thing. But I think that for the most part, I feel like when we made the Pearl of Africa, first we made a web series. That was standalone, and that made a big splash. But none of those people, I think, came and watched the behind the scenes vlog that we started like a year after or something. That's this channel. And that it still worked, and it had such a big space apart from each other. And the way we think about it now when we're making the next film, I'm actually editing the first episode of that behind the scenes series now. So we just like, after doing Confused African, we were just like, okay, so it doesn't seem to give it a boost. Like they work as standalone and all that. But I see one negative thing, and that is that when people watch something, when you have 8 episodes like we had, we felt like it was like the interest was going down through the like 3 or 5 or something like that. 3, I would say. 3 is where we feel comfortable. The advertising series, that's exactly what we did. Okay, so 3 episodes and then like switch it. But then we had like an idea with the advertising thing that, okay, so we make tutorial based stuff, but more vlog type of storytelling, or tutorial based stuff around advertising at the same time, but only for 3 weeks, because then we feel like, okay, we need to switch it up so that people don't get like, the people that are not interested in that on your channel, they will go away, that type of thing. So then we just felt that with this new series, we need to be smart about it, because we're gonna have this series run for a long time. It's gonna run until, I guess, after the film is made, and that can take years. So now we're starting with it, and I think, let me just look at the production schedule. I think it's like 3 or 4 episodes. Yeah, starting with 3. This might change because we feel like we have so good material, but it's 3 episodes at first. No, it's actually 6, but it's 3 and then 1 episode in between, and then 3 again. So that's how we've kind of scheduled it. And then but then we're also publishing like the tutorial based stuff and all that. But then we're also switching them up, so not all of them can be about the film, because then it will become too many of those if you're not interested in the film. Hopefully all of you are. But just because it's so difficult to build an audience and keep them engaged and wanting to see everything, we need to always try to match these things to like how the videos are performing. And I think that the only way that you can learn how this works is by publishing. So we publish a lot just because that teaches us how this works. And I feel like now we're starting to get a hang of the publishing thing, but it's always like trying to switch everything up. And I feel it's really hard to nail it and say that this is going to work, because what works now, it's not going to work in a month. That's the difficulty of like YouTube. But I think you should test it out, and I think do BTS stuff first and then do the whole episodic stuff afterwards, because then you have 2 launching platforms and then with time the BTS can build, and then that can build up to the episodes. But also, if you do the BTS stuff, you need to make it in a more, like, not the narrative type of way that you would. Like, if you're thinking like, okay, so the BTS will be about this film that is about this or whatever, and then we do BTS about that. That's, to me, the bad way of doing it, because then you won't get the free search and the free suggested type of content boosts that you can get otherwise. So I would base the BTS as single own episodes as well. So let's say there's one about cinematography, which is popular. So you would base it around that, then you would base it around your film. But the title and the narrative of the BTS should be about stuff that is being searched for or that can be matched to something. That's at least how we think about it. Yeah. What will an executive producer do for my documentary, and how do I get one? So this is interesting, both from like a traditional perspective and from our next film perspective, because the person that we're collaborating with, that's a big YouTuber, he's also coming on board as an executive producer. So in that sense, like, he's coming on board just to kind of both collaborate on ideas, trying to be like part of the decision making, trying to be part of how to make the film, as well as being part in the making, like in the production. So an executive can be somebody that's part of the team, part of like supporting the production team, supporting the production. It could also be that an executive producer is just somebody that comes with like money. It could also be somebody that just opens doors to money or something like that. And like, if you look at Hollywood, for instance, I think when we were in the agent meetings, I think somebody mentioned like 70K or something throwing out there, but I think that's what they said, that a EP could take 70K of your funding. So that would be like, you would have to fund that 70K plus whatever you need to fund, because they take 70K for their services. So it's very different type of things. But for instance, an agent can get you that, collaborations can get you that. Just like getting people hooked on your project. There was a film that was made, was it a football film? No. Laverne Cox, for instance, was a big like transgender activist and transgender woman. She what did she do? Did she make the film? I don't know, but she was also an executive producer for it, and in that case she came on board for the film, to support the film and to boost the film. That made it easy for her to contact festivals and try to get the film in there. That's also a way of doing it. You have somebody famous that can be like the spokesperson for the project and opening doors that way. Yeah, in a documentary about politics or social movement films like Zero Silence, there are many voices, characters to tell a story. How do you define that? How many and which characters to include? It kind of depends on what type of story you're trying to tell, because there's different arcs. I think that film is pretty badly made in terms of the arcs, and like, we didn't know anything about directing, we didn't know anything about documentary filmmaking. It was our first film, so doing that, we just shot everything and then like put it together. And that's a bad way of doing it. It works, like you can make a film like that, but it's not being a professional at your craft. So I think a better way of looking at it is looking at like character books and about arcs. I think, which one is that? Is it? I think Story by Robert McGee. Let me just write it in the chat. Story. Robert McGee. I think that's how you spell it. He has these chapters about characters and character arcs. And for the film that I'm making now, I'm basing like it around 4 characters and perhaps 5. And all of them I'm thinking of as one character. So all of them are the same character. They have different desires maybe and all those things, but they complement each other to make one story. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is just like having it as separate stories, which probably is what Zero Silence is. But there are films like Shortcuts. One of my favorite films is Sugisbal, Estonian film. Autumn Ball in English. Oh, such a great film. Other films that have this arc. What was that called? Crash. Yeah, Crash is a film like that as well. Look at those because they have like them intertwined in the same type of character, I think. But just look at those type. Let me see. Speaking of meeting people, do you ever find it hard to approach people? Like for me, it sounds hard to go to somebody and say, "Hey, I like your story. I want to make a documentary about you." It's funny. It's easier now because I don't have to do it myself. Usually, it's Andre or an assistant to Andre who does it. So, for instance, we have a casting person for each place that we cast in now, because every place we have one person that does the casting. So there are 4 separate people that does the casting. One is a filmmaker in Dawson, in Canada, Dawson City, or what's it called? Dawson? Yeah. Unsure. Canadian, sorry. And then in Lofoten we had one. Then we have one in Stockholm who did PTO in Sweden, and then we have one in, I think, in Cape Town. So they do different casting processes, like emailing, looking, researching, doing all that work. So I don't do much of that anymore. But that's just like a way of spreading your resources. You could do that as well if you don't have the funding for it. You could do it by talking to NGOs or something like that to try to find people through them, because it's much easier to have people who are locally connected to approach them. And for instance, for Canada, the guy that we have used for that casting, he went there, did interviews, shot interviews with them that he then sends to me, and he gives me a briefing, and I look at the interviews and I ask him about things and like ask him about the people, and we discuss everything, and then we kind of nail the scenes that we're gonna shoot before we go there. So I have a list of scenes that I want to shoot just from having him going there, doing the pre-interview, and then we talk together for like a couple of hours, just talking about like what type of stuff that we want to shoot and what type of angles we have and how do they connect and all those things. So it's a like long research process that started in that case with an article in New York Times, contacting that New York Times writer, and then like going from there to casting the whole thing. So it's a long process, but usually it's like pretty simple in the end, just because you have somebody else who has the connections, and that makes it much faster to kind of do. Okay. At times it looks like you were filming in some quite dangerous environments while shooting Zero Silence and the Pearl of Africa. Were there any moments where you feared for your safety while filming? Mainly in Zero Silence. I don't think Pearl of Africa so much. Like there was some weird situation where there was like people screaming after Cleo. That was weird, but I think that was about it in that one. In Zero Silence though, it was something totally different, because I came there to Egypt, to Cairo on the 25th, no, the 26th of January. Yeah, 25th. Did it start? No, 25th, 26th, 28th, I think. So it started on the 25th, and then I got there on the 28th. I came to Tahrir Square with like my luggage in my hand and started filming. And seconds after that, like the jet planes started circling over. And I was just maybe naive, but I was just like, is anybody out there so stupid that they would like bomb a whole place that has like 1 million people of their own people? Probably somebody is that pretty much insane person. But I just felt like with all the attention that was on Egypt, I just felt like that was unlikely. So in that sense, I was just like, maybe not. What was scary though was the whole cracking down on journalists. Not so much on Tahrir Square because it was more of a safe space. Because everybody there, until they really started attacking, raping, and all that, journalists as well, it was a safe space. So in there you were pretty much like comfortable walking around and all that. But then Mubarak at some point sent out, and this is like through Telenor and all those like Vodafone and all those providers, they sent messages to all people to go and protest for him. And that's when things get crazy, because then they also pay like goons to go there and attack people, so it creates like fear and all that. And that sparked, first of all, there was a day where the camels just rode in to Tahrir Square where we were at. So I don't know, these camels have gone, I guess, from the pyramids or something. It's like far away. And they just ride into the crowd. And a lot of people get hurt. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when people started throwing stones. So you're standing there on Tahrir Square in the center of everything, and then you just see like far away in the distance you see this cloud, and you don't really know what it is, but it's like a sandstorm coming towards you, and it's actually rocks that are being thrown like back and forth, so from like our side, which is like the good side, the demonstrators, the pro-democracy demonstrators, towards the other side, which is the other side that is probably also not that bad, but still angry at each other. So the rocks are coming. You just feel like, okay, so now we need to get out of here. And then I went out of there and I went up. And I don't know if this is like stupid or usually if you're in that situation and it's not like somebody is attacking you, because most people that were standing there outside was not, you know, the pro-Mubarak demonstrators, and they were like, okay, so they know I have a camera, so they're pretty much, you know, questioning that and all. But I usually just play really stupid, and that usually goes a long way, just being like naive and not being threatening in some way. So I just go there and I stand there for a while just hanging out with them, just like a weirdo that comes and stands next to you in the middle of a crowd, and then I just take up the camera after a while. And like they might ask something and I just smile and I don't know what they're saying, that type of thing. And then I shot that whole scene with the camels riding in and all that was happening at that time as well. So those times you're fearing things, but you're also like calm and collectively like putting the memory cards in your socks and that sort of thing as well. So it's a weird situation where you need to kind of problem solve at the same time as you need to think about your life and like, okay, how likely is it that somebody's gonna come? But the worst thing I think was when we were in our hotel rooms and we started getting reports that people were attacking journalists in their homes or in their hotels. They started at the big hotels. So they started like the Hiltons and all those, like the Marriott. And we stayed just outside of Marriott. And that was like, okay, so we know that they're in the Marriott now because we have all these journalist contacts. And they're attacking people. So that's one thing that you're like, okay, so are they gonna come here or what's gonna happen? And we're also filled with journalists where we're at, but it's a smaller hotel, so they didn't come, but we hide our hard drives and that thing and, you know, hope they're not gonna come. Yeah, those moments are like the weirdest ones, but other than that, it's all good. Yeah. Let me just see. I gotta go. Okay, let me just answer this. Should I try to get my film distributed? How do I do that? You should probably always try to do it. The thing is, I think if you don't know the industry, or if you haven't like been the whole festival circuit, it's very hard to launch a film outside of the festival circuit. So for most people, I think it makes sense to go and get into a good festival in like a competition type of place. About how the film industry works from just doing that. And I think that's a good way of getting it distributed, if you can do that and then take that as a learning experience. If you don't get it distributed, take that as a learning experience, how things work, and apply that to doing a self-distributing type of thing. Because I think self-distributing, as good as it is to read what other people do, or for instance, like looking at the course that we're doing now, you can definitely go and self-distribute, but do it parallel, I think, to the festival circuit, so that you learn how the industry works from the inside at the same time as you do it, rather than just like separating them. I think that's probably the best way. At least I feel that now. It usually changes with how the industry changes, but right now it feels like it's so narrow-minded that they look a lot towards that. If you have a success with something online, a web series or something, maybe you can get it picked up and get it turned into like a feature or something. But it's hard, and you hopefully can do it yourself, but probably you need an agent or something that does it. Okay, that's gonna be it for today. But yeah, we will talk soon. And episode this week, what is it about? Yeah, one grading episode and one about the ultimate filmmaking kit. Finally. Bye bye, guys and girls.